Join our Patreon to get early access to videos just like this, ad-free. Link is in the description. Hey everyone, welcome back to Xfix. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Ryan, and in today's video, we are going to be recreating Nueva's website. Now, typically with this series, we try to find websites that are kind of custom coded or built on some other platform, and then we build it in Editor X. But for today's video, we're actually going to be designing this website right here, and this was actually already built inside of Editor X. In fact, I actually found this website from the Editor X showroom, which is basically a giant database full of websites that were built in Editor X. So this should be a pretty fun video. But let's go ahead and get started. So as you can see here, I've already done the header and the footer just to save us a little bit of time in this video. So we can just go ahead and jump right to the first section. Now for this first section, what I would like to do is set this to 100 VH. VH stands for viewport height, and what viewport is it's a percentage of your user's screen. So it doesn't matter if they're on a desktop, laptop, tablet, or mobile. If I set this to 100 VH, it's going to take up 100% of your user's device height. But inside of this, what I want to do is just add an image. So we'll go to quick add, drag out this image, and we'll stretch it. Then we'll go ahead and change the image out to the main image for the website, or for the hero. Perfect. Then what I want to do is come over to design. Let's go ahead and raise the background color, and we will slightly lower the image opacity to maybe like 80%. On top of this image, what I want to do is just add the logo for the company. So come over to media, we'll grab this logo, place it on the page, and then I'm just going to align to center to remove any margins. And also what we have in this section is going to be a shop and gift card button. So what I want to do is actually come over to this header. We're going to copy this container and I'm going to paste it down here. Now within this container, all it is a container split into a grid. So it has two columns with a 30 pixel gap. And then in each column, we have a button set with a width of 100 pixels and 46 height. And then the column and rows are both set to max content, same with the width of the box. So it's really not like a super hard to do, but if you want to learn about containers and grids and how to use them, I do have other design videos of Editor X and videos about grids and containers. So I'll try to have those linked in the description below. But what I want to do with these buttons is actually change the text color to their kind of off-white color, just so it stands out a little bit more here on the website. Great. And with this container selected, we'll go ahead and make sure it is centered. And I think instead of like 100 pixels, let's do like 50 pixels from the top. I think that looks good. And to make it responsive, we can go ahead and set this to, let's just do viewport width for now. Also on top of that, there is also a vertical text element over here on the website. So what I want to do is simply just add a quick paragraph. Let's go ahead and change the text. We'll also change the color, and we'll also change the size to maybe like 16 pixels. Then for the width, let's set this to max content. Under adjust, what I want to do is rotate this element 90 degrees. And actually I want to do it negative 90 degrees because I want the text to be facing the other way. Let's send this to the bottom right and remove the margins for now. But let's go ahead and add like 120 pixels of margin to the bottom. We'll make this responsive. Then for the right, let's go ahead and add -5%. Maybe we'll try -3, and I think that looks good. Okay. So now we have this text element here, which is exactly what we wanted. Now let's go ahead and add a brand new section. We'll make this section blank. For the height, let's go ahead and give us some room to work with. We'll set this to like 900 pixels for now. And what I want to do on here is come over to media. We'll go to my uploads. We'll go show more. And I want to add this glasses real quick. Maybe we will set this to be like 42%. Maybe we'll just set it to an even 50%, and we'll align it to the center. Let's copy and paste it. Again, we'll align it to the center, but for this one, we're going to change it to these lenses. So now we should have two elements like this. And if you're wondering how these are lining up so perfectly, basically in a design software like Photoshop, Illustrator, or like Figma or something, you just create one artboard and you kind of align the designs together and you export the entire artboard. So no matter what, the designs are going to be the exact same size. What we're going to do is go ahead and copy and paste it one more time. We'll center it. And what I want to do is select these lines. But now we have these three different graphics that we now have for our little illustration, or a little infographic, I guess. And what I want to do next is come over to quick add. We'll do a container. With this container, we're going to set the background color to our background color. We're also going to add a like 1 pixel border, and we want it to be our black color. Fantastic. Inside, what I want to do is add kind of a little title. Now, for this title, what we're going to say is hinge. And we're going to add a little bit of character spacing. Not that much. Let's do 0.2. And we'll also change the size to we'll do 22 pixels and we'll center it. Fantastic. Let's also center the text inside of this box as well. Then let's add a paragraph element. We're going to want this paragraph element to be centered, and I'm going to paste in the text. And we're going to make this text around 16 pixels. I'm going to put these really close together. We'll grab both and we'll stack them. Then with this stack selected, let's go ahead and set the width to max content. We'll go ahead and set the stack to be 16 VW. Then with this container, let's go ahead and set the width to be max content. We'll go ahead and set the height to be none. Then we'll grab the stack. Let's remove the margin, but let's grab the container itself, and inside let's add 12 pixels of padding on all sides. Perfect. And what we're going to do is grab this container and we're going to place it right here above this first infographic. Great. Now what I want to do is copy and paste it. Let's bring this one over here. We'll copy and paste it again. We'll bring this one down here. And last but not least, we'll copy and paste it, and we'll bring this one all the way over here. Now let's go ahead and change out this text. Perfect. And now that we have this all done and placed exactly where we want, what I want to do is grab the section itself, and we're going to say customize grid on canvas. Now the first thing I want to do is kind of outline the images. So what we're going to do is probably come down to where it kind of snaps. So I'm going to do that for the top one. We'll do that for the bottom one. Then let's do that for the sides as well. Perfect. And now let's go ahead and do that for the boxes here. So we have this box right here. So we're just gonna basically align these until they snap. We'll do it for this box down here. And basically we're creating a very complex grid, but it is important because it's going to be basically holding all of our content together. Okay, fantastic. And now what we can do is kind of just make sure that all of our elements are in the right section. So now we can come in here and just kind of make sure all of our content is in the right grid cell. So for this one, for the columns, let's go ahead and set this to maybe 3 to 4. I think that will look a little bit better. So now we basically have a really complex grid, but it's going to basically hold all of our elements together, which is really nice. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next section. For this section, we're going to make this, again, pretty large for now. We might change it a little bit later. But inside of this, what I want to do is actually add a 2x1 grid. For this column, I want the left hand or the right hand side to be a little bit bigger. So let's go ahead and set the right column to 1.2 FR. In this left column, what I want to do is add a container. We're going to stretch it, and we're going to set the background color to like a dark brown. Now with this image stretched, what I want to do is add maybe like 5 pixel gap on the left and top. Maybe we'll do like 10 pixels instead. We want this to be somewhat visible. Perfect. Then what I want to do is add an image. We'll move it over here to the right and then move it manually over here to the left because I don't want to accidentally attach it to this container. We want it attached to this section. But what we're going to do is go ahead and stretch this image, and we can go ahead and change it out here as well. And with this image, what we can now do is set 10 pixel margin on the bottom and the right. And what that's basically going to create is this nice little like box shadow effect on our image. And I think that looks really good. And it will be responsive. So that's also really good. Over here on the right hand side, all I really want to do is kind of grab this stack. We'll paste it down here. Of course, we'll make sure it's in the right column. Let's also set this to be like 50% width. We'll make sure it's aligned to the center, and I'm going to go ahead and change out the text real quick. Now I do want to add a little bit more space here. So instead of 12, let's do like 24. Let's just double it up. Great. And I also want to go ahead and add some buttons here. So what I'm going to do is copy these buttons. Actually, I'm going to copy the ones from the header because I do want black text on this white background. So I'm going to go ahead and paste it down here. We'll go ahead and move it inside of the stack. We'll make sure it's centered in the stack. Let's remove the 24 pixels from the bottom, but let's add that to the paragraph itself. Great. And also for these buttons, what I want to do is go ahead and change the design to have a 1 pixel border. Of course, we don't want rounded borders, so I'm going to go ahead and set these to 0, but I'll go ahead and do that for this one here as well. 1 pixel border and no radius. Perfect. I also kind of want these to be a little bit bigger, so maybe we'll do like 160 pixels for these buttons. And I'm going to go ahead and change the text. So this one is going to be the shop button. Of course, you probably want to make sure that links correctly as well. But this one over here is going to be the gift card button. So now this section is complete. And now I kind of want to add a little bit of space. So what I want to do is grab this stack. Let's add like 150 pixels to the top and bottom. We'll make these responsive values. Then we'll grab the section itself and remove the height. We also need to come over to the row and remove the height here as well. For our next section, I do want to add a blank section here just as a little bit of a spacer. Just because the next section is going to be just a giant image, and I don't typically like putting images against images, like right up against each other. Just because it's hard to convey where you want your user's attention if you do that, at least in my opinion. So I always like to add a space in between images. So what we're going to do is set this section to be 900 pixels. Let's go ahead and add an image to the background and we'll stretch it. And we'll go ahead and change the image here as well. Of course, with this image, let's go ahead and add a background color and we'll lower the opacity of the image itself to 80. In this top area, we're going to want a little bit of text. So what I want to do is actually grab this text right here. And I'm going to paste it in this section. Now for this, I don't want it to be rotated. So we're going to set this back to 0. And let's just go ahead and change the text. Okay. Then what I want to do is send this to the top left. And maybe we'll add like 100 pixel gap on the top and left. And of course we can switch these over to responsive values just to make sure it looks good on all screen sizes. Then over here on the right hand side, I want to add a giant title. So what we're going to do is add a title. We'll change this to be our story in all caps. Let's align this to the left. We'll make it our white color. And then for the size, let's just see what 200 looks like. We might need it to be a little bit bigger, but in order to do that, let's go ahead and set the width to be 100% width. We'll send this to the bottom right. And let's go ahead and try what 300 looks like. I think that looks pretty good. Now, what I want to do with this text now is actually come into the margins for the bottom. And maybe we'll say negative 100 pixels. Okay, I think that looks good, but maybe let's try what negative 90 pixels look like. I think that looks pretty good just like that. And what I want to do is grab this section. We'll say overflow content, we'll set it to hide. That way, this text element doesn't actually bleed over into the next section, just in case we didn't want it to. Now it definitely won't. And the last section that we are going to have here on the website is gonna be their journal or blog. So what I want to do is give us a lot of room to work with. So we're gonna say like 1100 pixels. Then what I want to do is add a container. We'll set this container to be like 85% width. Let's just send it to the middle and top, and we'll make this pretty large as well. Now for the grid, what I want to do is set a 1x3, so it's going to give us 3 rows. In the top one, all I really want is basically a title that says journal. So I'm going to copy this text from above. I'm going to paste it in here, and I'm also going to make it a tad bigger. Maybe we'll say like 32. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and align it to the center, just like that. In this middle row, I want to have a repeater. So I want to give us a little more room to work with here. So I'm going to set this row to be like 800 pixels for now. It's not going to end up being that big, but what I want to do is come over to add. Let's add a repeater. We're going to stretch it. For each one of these, let's go ahead and remove the background color. Let's also just go ahead and do that for this container as well. Perfect. And what I want to do in here is just set a 1x2 grid. So we have a top section for the image, bottom section for information. So let's go ahead and add the image into this top area. We'll stretch it. And let's just go ahead and change the images out real quick. Okay, for this bottom area, what I want to do is add a container. Let's just go ahead and stretch it for now. But what I want to do is remove the background color. Actually, no, we want to have the background color here for now, but we're going to change it to the background color. Let's also add a 1 pixel border. And of course, we'll make it our darkest color. Perfect. Inside of this, what I want to do is add a 1x2 grid, just like this. In the top section, I want there to be some information similar to, let's just grab this one up here. And we'll paste it in the top area. Now for this, I do want our stack to be left aligned. So we're going to align items to the left. Also for the text or the title, I do not want there to be character spacing. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. Actually, we'll do 0.1. I think that looks a little bit better. For the width, I do want it to be like, let's say 80%. Perfect. And for this title text, I don't want it to be max content. I want it to be 100% width. Perfect. So I'm just going to go ahead and change out the text real quick. Now I want to make sure that this stack is centered, but I do want to add maybe like 40 pixels on the top and bottom, just for margin. I also want to come over here to the row height for this top row, and I want to set this to minimum content. Then what I want to do is go ahead and add a line here. Of course, for this line, I do want to have it be the same color as our grid outline. We're going to make it the same width as well. We're going to set the width to be 100%. We'll make sure it's in the bottom. Then we'll center it and send it to the top as a little spacer. Then what I want to do is go ahead and grab a button. We'll grab a button from up here, just like that. Then we'll come down to this and we'll paste it in. Let's set the width for this to be 100%. We'll align it to the center. I do want the button to be aligned to the right-hand side, but we'll add some space here. And we'll change the text to read more. Then we'll grab this row here and we'll set this to minimum content. Now let's grab the main container for the repeater item. And we're going to set this bottom row to minimum content as well. We're also going to remove the height from the repeater item. Now let's grab the repeater itself. And I want to maybe add a little bit of a gap here. So maybe let's do like, let's try 50 pixel. Okay, I think that looks a lot better. Then let's grab the section container. For this row, we'll set this to minimum content. Perfect. And I also want to add like a vertical gap of like 60 pixels. For this top row, we're going to set this to minimum content. And for this bottom row, I just want to have a button. So what we're going to do is come over here. We'll grab this button and we'll basically paste it here. We'll paste it inside this section. And what I want to do is align it up with this section. We'll stretch it to be about this large. But we'll go ahead and change this to a percentage. and we'll change the text to all journals. Perfect. Now with this master container selected, we'll go ahead and change this bottom one to minimum content. We'll also need to remove the margin from the top of this button. Then with this container selected, we'll remove the height. We'll add 150 pixel of spacing on the top and bottom. We'll make these responsive. And now we'll grab the section itself and remove the height. So if we go all the way up to the top of the website, here is the Nueva website built in Editor X. But that's basically going to wrap it up for today's video. If you all did enjoy, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel for more Wix and Editor X content coming out really soon. Thank you all again, and I'll see you all in the next one.